Officer takes a swig of white wine. The spicy tears came straight from his eyes. The villagers below laughed madly at him. The next moment, at the officer's command, all the villagers, they all died at gunpoint. Then they put on their gas masks. A gas bomb was thrown into the bodies of the villagers. It turns out their purpose was to test the poison on the villagers' corpses. This is one of the best zombie movies of 2020. It starts with a combat team on a mission. A white guy sees a paratrooper falling from a tree. He can't resist to take a souvenir photo, but the dead paratrooper suddenly opens his eyes. The next moment, White is dead under the paratrooper's mouth. His teammates rushed to push the paratrooper away from him. They were shooting at him like crazy, but he couldn't be killed. Luckily, Uncle shot him in the head. That's what killed the paratrooper. Just then, White stood up. His teammate broke his neck. Then Uncle shot him in the head again. Then they returned to the group. They found that everyone was dead. Then the dead teammates all stood up. The little brother saw his father come back to life. He ran to embrace him. Instead, death awaited him. The rest of the group opened fire on the zombies. A tacit agreement opened a way to live. Rowed away in a boat. Safe on another island. Once on the island, they found there were walkers here too. A muscular man pushes the boy away, only to be bitten back. The muscles look like a kid who couldn't bear to do it. Instead, he was swallowed up by the walkers. The team has no choice but to get out of here. At night they came to a wooden hut. They found another team inside. Both sides took up their guns and pointed them at each other. At that moment, the leader of the other team, Morocco, proposed to fight the zombies outside together. This made peace between the two sides. While they were still discussing how to break out tomorrow, the zombies suddenly appeared outside. They were attacking the cabin. They had no choice but to escape from the back. Then one of our teammates lit the explosives in his hand. That's how they got out of there safely. They came to the spot where the villagers had been shot. They found remnants of a gas canister. Upstairs, there was a large pile of lab equipment. That's when a woman came out. He was the only one in the village who had survived. He told Uncle and the others. The officers that day were extremely cruel. They threw a gas canister at the bodies of the villagers. Then the villagers suddenly came back to life. The man with glasses in the group found the experiment data. He hid all the data. Then he threatened Uncle with a gun. He killed all the people in Morocco. Then he took the data back to the base. He knew that if he had the data, he knew that with this data, he could rule the world. At that moment, Shuai from the group came running over. He wanted to warn them that the zombies were coming, but the man with the glasses pointed his gun directly at him. He didn't give him a chance to say anything. The next second the man with the glasses was eaten up by the zombies. Then they escaped from the basement. When they came out, Loco said he knew who did it. His uncle was the head of the army, and the officer the woman was talking about was one of his men. He was also the second in command of the army. They were about to go to his uncle's place, but Xiao Shuai's arm was dripping blood. When they arrived at the entrance of the army, he told him that only you could come in alone. The others could be left to fend for themselves. He also told him that the zombie experiment had been successful. The army was going to blow up the place, but Morocco didn't want to give up his friends, so they tried to interrupt the uncle's plan. The uncle and the second in command had a fight. The second in command shot. Uncle was shot and taken away. On the other side, Little Marshall offered to blast the defensive point. He lifted his arm. Little Marshall told them he wanted to be a real warrior for once, so he pulled his grenade and headed for the enemy. Halfway down the line he was knocked down, but that's when Little Marshall mutated and stood up again. With the faith of a warrior, he went on towards the enemy, only to be shot in the head at the last step. The explosion of the grenade set off. The explosion of the grenade set off the explosives deployed by the enemy. The last few men made it into the enemy army to find that it was full of mutated zombies, and the enemy was busy retreating. They didn't even think that Uncle and the others would break in. The zombies also broke in. The three of them were trapped by the zombies, but the sniper in the team rescued them, but they were dragged down by the zombies. The three of them managed to get on the train. Uncle was responsible for starting the train. Morocco and his girlfriend went to look for the antidote. By the time they found the second in command, he had already finished injecting himself with the zombie virus. But before he could finish transforming, he was shot in the head by Morocco's girlfriend. Then they hid in the quarantine compartment of the train. The zombies outside also surrounded them. Uncle managed to start the train, but he gave his last bullet to himself. Outside, the bombers arrive. A missile is dropped. The two of them kissed each other in the isolation chamber. They say their last goodbyes. Then a huge explosion, and the train pulls out. The author thought it was over when he saw it, but the sniper survived. And so did Morocco and his girlfriend. The second in command who was shot in the head also survived. I guess the director is planning to make a second film. The overall story is very cliched, but the pacing and characterization is really good. The plot is coherent and doesn't drag on. Each character has a very distinct personality. It's a good small budget zombie film to watch.